So today we're playing a 2,500 point game, Eldar versus Eldar again. I've reassembled my Spirit Host in the form of two Wraithguard squads, 10 each, two Wraith Lords, and other than that, we'll start with my HQs. I've got a Farseer with 2 powers, Spirit Stones, and both wards. I've also got Asserman on the left. He's leading a Dire Avenger squad. I was hoping to bring more HQs, but unfortunately I had to cut them out because apparently I was 500 points over. Most of my army is actually troops today. I've got 2 squads of 10 strong Dire Avengers, one with the Shimmer Shield and Power Weapon, which honestly is really a power spear with the way that the rulings go for 6th edition. So that's what I'm going to play it as, with Asserman. And the other squad has a Dire Sword and Shuriken Pistol in the 10-man strong squad. Beyond that, I've also got 14 strong Storm Guardians making another appearance with their Warlock with Enhance. The 2 Wraithguard squads that I already mentioned, they both have Conceal. And moving on to Fast Attack, I have the Nightwing, which is still in the process of being completed in terms of painting, but it's getting there. And 5 strong squad of Warp Spiders. I also forgot another troop unit. I've got a 5 strong squad of Rangers as well, just as an afterthought. And in heavy support, I've got the 2 Wraith Lords, one with a sword, the other with an Eldar missile launcher and scatter laser, and a Night Spinner, followed by a 3 strong squad of Shadow Weavers. So we'll see how those perform, and it's going to be an interesting one today.
Clay and I have decided to move up to a 2,500 point game. This is my first time doing the dual detachments. I'm using 3 HQs. I've got the Avatar, an Autarch, and a Farseer. The Autarch has a power axe and a meltagun and a jump pack, and he'll be coming in with the Warp Spiders. The troops are jet bikes, a regular squad of Guardians, Dire Avengers, and the Rangers. And then I have Striking Scorpions as my only elites unit. I've got some Warlocks teaming up with the Farseer. I've got both the Nightwing and the Forge World. I'm excited to see how the changes from Forge World affect those 2 units. And then I've also got the Night Spinner and the Falcon. The Falcon has oddly enough become my primary tank hunter and monstrous creature killer because it can fire off both the Bright Lance and the Pulse Laser now.
So, we've completed the deployment of our forces and infiltrators as well. I have won the first opportunity to go, and Dan's got a bunch of Guardians deployed in the middle of his force, along with a Night Spinner and a Falcon flanking. Warlocks and Farseer in the Falcon. He's got his Avatar deployed to go straight ahead to my objective, along with Striking Scorpions. And Rangers in that middle crater there. I've got my Wraithguard holding the center, bolstered by Dire Avengers on either flank. The Storm Guardians are in the exact center in the mysterious jungle. Meanwhile, my Rangers are holding the objective, and my Shadow Weavers, Night Spinner. One of my Wraith Lords are bolstering that. My Sword Lord is on the left side, ready to chase down his objective. Now Dan is going to attempt to steal the initiative.
First night fight.
Oh, night fight, that's right, which we've forgotten about in the past.
It is a night fight for the first turn.
We start a night fight.
And attempt to siege. No seize.
And Dan failed to seize the initiative as usual. Top of turn 1 has concluded. I have made my first moves. Basically, my whole army moved forward, and since we have night fight in the first round, uh, units between 12 and 24 inches away have the effects of stealth, and units 24 to or beyond 24 to 36 have the effects of both stealth and shroud. So I managed to, for the most part, actually have relatively effective shooting for what it was worth. Uh, I moved my Night Spinner up to get within 24 inches of the striking scorpions, and the Avatar on the left managed to take out 3 striking scorpions and affect both the Falcon, the Avatar, and the striking scorpions with my entanglement. My Shadow Weavers shot at the Dire Avengers in the middle of his force. They were over there. And I managed to come back after scattering off with the third template to hit 3. Didn't kill any of them, but still I was pretty pleased with being able to actually hit. My Wraithlord shot at the Rangers in the middle crater there and managed to take out 2 with his scatter laser. They were within 24 inches, and amusingly, they don't gain the benefit of stealth in night fight because they already have stealth. So beyond that, I ran with the rest of my forces. An interesting occurrence in the movement phase. I don't know why I keep starting soft bodies in the mysterious terrain, but I deployed my Storm Guardians in the mysterious jungle, and so they started off unveiling that, and it happened to be full of Razorwing nests. Uh, Dan was saying, oh, it won't be a big deal, but I happened to roll above 4 for the difficult terrain test, so I triggered them, and I got 6 out of D6 hits, strength 3, rending, no AP value. 5 of those were wounds, and I lost 4 of them. So 4 casualties inflicted by Razorwings. I'm trying to keep up my tradition of inflicting more damage on myself in my turn as opposed to Dan's turn. Didn't quite, well, yeah, I didn't quite make it, but I came close. And so we move on to the bottom of turn 1.
At the bottom of my turn 1, I really have no idea how I'm doing. It was a very uneven turn for me. My Scorpions, after taking a bunch of damage, actually did manage to get into assault with the Wraithguard right there, but then the Overwatch fire took 2 guys down before they did anything, and then Clay did enough wounds that with 8 armor saves, I failed 2 saves, so my Exarch never even got to swing his fist. Outside of that, the Falcon did pretty well. It managed to do 2 hull points worth of damage to the Night Spinner, and it blew off the Doomweaver. And my Dark Reaper Exarch managed to take out about half of the Dire Avenger squad because the crack shot doesn't allow cover saves. So I managed to do a ton of wounds, and that really kind of helped me there. And then I got the far unit of Wraithguard into the dangerous terrain. So like I said, so far kind of uneven, but we'll see how the rest of this goes.
Top of turn 2 is over now. We rolled at the start of the turn, and Night Fight no longer applies. I moved my forces up to counter Dan's thrust against my objective. My Wraithguard had consolidated forward a bit from the striking Scorpion charge in the previous turn, and they turned their guns on the Avatar. In fact, everything but the Nightwing turned their guns on the Avatar and inflicted a wound. So he made out pretty well with his armor saves, or I don't know, the Avatar is just pretty resilient. My Nightwing came on, and it shot at the Falcon. It inflicted a hull point worth of damage. My Warp Spiders deep struck over there, and they shot at the Rangers, killing 1. My other forces on the left, still largely out of range of their guns. They managed to pick off a Dire Avenger or 2 and a Dark Reaper. Meanwhile, my Shadow Weavers, my battery in the corner over there, they managed to pick off a number of Guardians standing over Dan's objective. Beyond that, I'm setting myself up to be wrecked by the Avatar, and we'll see how that goes in Dan's bottom of turn 2.
Here at the bottom of turn 2, I got most of my reserves on. I think Clay's pretty sure I had a great turn, whereas I am not quite so sure. Uh, I ended up taking out the warp spiders that had deep struck over off to the right. Uh, my jet bikes and Dire Avengers fired on them, and that really didn't do much, but I did manage to assault them and killed everyone except for the Exarch, who was in a challenge, and he ended up running away, and he's right here with the Wraith Guard. The Avatar made it into close combat, except Clay used Overwatch to gun him down. He rolled 1-6 to hit, got a 6 on the wound, which is an auto kill with the Wraith Cannon, and I failed my 4-up, so that was it for the Avatar. The Warlocks came out of the back of the Falcon. They used their Destructor, and they managed to take out an entire Dire Avenger unit, which at the time I was like, hey, that's awesome. The Wraith Guard here with the 2-and-up cover save, they took a couple wounds, and they're in difficult and dangerous terrain, as are the Dire Avengers behind them. And I managed to take out Clay's Nightwing with one volley from mine, which was pretty cool. And the Phoenix Bomber, though it didn't kill a lot of guys, it did hit a lot against the Wraith Guard, which, we'll see how it goes over a number of games. But right now, I'm pretty pleased with how the new strafing run rule works, because you hit on a 2-and-up against ground units essentially, so it makes it really nasty at taking out any massive infantry groups. And I'm not using the Nightfire missiles this time. I'm using the basic missiles, which are Strength 5, AP 3, fires Heavy 3. So, and it has 2 of those. So overall, we'll see how this continues. I haven't gotten my Warp Spiders yet, so we'll see what kind of monkey wrench they throw into things.
Top of turn 3. I can't believe it's only turn 3. A lot has happened. I've managed to somewhat blunt the attack on my objective, which is over in the corner there. I managed to destroy the Falcon with my Wraith Guard, and my Wraith Lord moved in next to the Seer Council, which is behind that obstacle right there. He used his Flamer and Scatter Laser, took out a couple guys. The Farseer is down to 1 wound. He charged in, challenged the Farseer, and the Farseer hit with all its attacks, and I failed 2 of my saves. He was already down a wound earlier from shooting, so he died before he could make his attacks. In the middle, my Storm Guardians finally reformed, and who knows if they're actually going to do anything, but they're going to move forward again. On the left flank against Dan's objective, I'm making headway. Finally took out the Dark Reapers that were causing a lot of damage on my troops. My Shadow Weavers failed to do any, or rather Dan made all his armor saves against my Shadow Weavers when I dropped them on his Dire Avengers right there that are clustered. Beyond that, my Rangers haven't really done anything either. They made some more shots but failed to do anything, and that is the conclusion of my turn.
Here at the bottom of turn 3, I got across the board with what was left of my Warlocks, but I lost 1 because Clay got to hit first in combat, and the 1 guy I had left couldn't bother to actually hit except for 1 time, and then he didn't wound. So he did manage to pass his break test, which is pretty neat. I whittled down the Wraith Guard a lot, but there's still a handful of them there. I fired 5 units at them, and it just wasn't enough to take them down. And outside of that, not a lot going on.
Top of turn 4, I consolidated back towards my objectives with my own objective with my Wraith Guard squad. Still 8 strong, hasn't quite made it back there. Everything took an opportunity shot at the fliers, and nothing happened. However, my Warp Spider Exarch, who was fleeing, regrouped on Insane Bravery, double 1s. So he's back in the fight somehow. Meanwhile, my Rangers were wiped out. They lost by one casualty, and they failed to kill the remaining Warlock on the objective over there. The Warlock chased them down, killed them, so he's still roaming around there, and I've got nothing on my objective. Meanwhile, on the right side, contrary to last turn where I failed my psychic test, I made it this time, so what's left of my Wraithguard, those two Wraithguard, the Spirit Seer and the Farseer, now have invisibility again, which gives them a 2+ cover save when combined with the Conceal from the Spirit Seer. Meanwhile, my Asserman and Dire Avengers moved to counter his Warp Spiders and Autarch there. However, both the units unfortunately failed to make their charge rolls. They both rolled 5s. They needed 6 or 7s. And on the plus side, my Dire Avengers did gun down 3 Warp Spiders. But other than 3 Warp Spiders and a Guardian, those are the only casualties I inflicted, and we move on to the bottom of turn 4.
This was a huge turn for me shooting-wise. Because Clay's 2 charges both failed last turn, they were just kind of both units standing out in the open. So with the combined fire of all my units, I managed to actually get through that invincibility shield that Clay had. That is just awesome on a Wraithguard unit. And I whittled him down, killed off the Farseer, and then after that I used both planes to actually kill off Asserman, which was another huge thing for me. And I thinned out the Guardians a little bit more, but they didn't get pinned or break. But overall, I really couldn't ask for much more of that turn. The only thing that really turned against me was I did the jump with the Warp Spiders, and I rolled double 1s, so I didn't really get to move away, and I lost a guy. And then the Warlock, who I was going to charge the weapons with, I just totally forgot about it. It's hot, and I wasn't thinking clearly and made a boneheaded move. So, well, he'll die next turn.
All right, top of turn 5. My left flank is completely gone. My Storm Guardians made it up into the center, shot at and charged the combined Warp Spider / Autarch squad. They managed to take out the Warp Spiders with fire, but the Autarch remained unscathed. I managed to completely duff my charge rolls. He had a power axe, so he goes last. I failed to wound with everything. Beyond that, I moved up my Night Spinner, attempted to tank shock his unit of Rangers and Dire Avengers. He passed both his morale checks. My Warp Spider Exarch came up, shot down 3 Rangers, and failed to make the charge. My support weapon platform, they gunned down the lone Warlock that was left right next to them, managing to inflict 5 hits from the Shadow Weavers on themselves, and that inflicted a wound, actually. I took out a crewman. Not a big deal, though, but I took out the Warlock, and I ran my Wraithguard back onto my objective. That is the conclusion of my turn 5, and perhaps my last turn.
At the bottom of turn 5, I've done a lot to clean up Clay's forces. He's now down to 2 Wraithguard and the squad of weapons. And I'm pretty sure I'm contesting. I'm claiming my own objective. And I blew up the Night Spinner, killed off the last of the Warp Spider Exarchs. And I did a lot of damage to Clay just through attrition, a ton of shots. And once his Warlock died, he was in a bad way. So we'll roll to see if the game continues.
Sure.
It does.
It does. Top of turn 6. My Wraithguard, you can kind of see, facing off against the Autarch. We inflicted a wound each. I'm down to 1 Wraithguard, and he's down to how many wounds?
I have 2.
2 wounds left. Meanwhile, my Shadow Weavers came up with a big hit. Took out 3 jet bikes from his jet bike squad, forced them to fail their morale check. They didn't move very far, but they are broken at the moment. So that is all that I have left, just those 2 units, and we're moving on to the bottom of turn 6.
My bikes were grouped, and I was able to get back into contesting range for the objective. My 2 planes managed to do a ton of damage to the Shadow Weavers, but that's about it. They didn't do anything else. I Yeah. I mean, I didn't break them and chase them off the board or anything. I was thinking they just took a bunch of damage. And my Autark got 5 hits on the Wraithguard, but he failed to score 6, so he didn't do a wound with his power axe. And we see if the game ends here. Continues on a 4-up.
Go ahead and roll.
Continues. For turn 7.
Top of turn 7, I killed a jet bike. End statement.
At the end of turn 7, Clay was nearly tabled. I couldn't shoot anything at his weapons, which is not a big deal. I did end up claiming his objective because the Autark killed off the last Wraithguard standing. Good game.
Good game.
Vector Dancer is awesome. The ability to go just 18 inches and then get a second 90-degree pivot gives you so much more control over what you can shoot at. While the Nightwing did end up with 2 hull points compared to 3 like the Razorwing, it really wasn't a factor in this game. It only got shot at a couple times, and it just sort of dominated along with the Phoenix because of the Vector Dancer.
There was only 1 turn out of the 7-turn game where you didn't shoot your desired targets, and that was the last turn, where I only had 1 unit left. And you had already been shooting at them for the previous turn.
Yes. The striking run on the Phoenix is particularly excellent as well because it gives it ballistic skill 5 against ground units.
Yeah.
So, you're just hitting all the time. Whatever you hit, you are hammering. You do have to choose one weapon not to fire, but most of the time, it's a real simple decision.
Yep. The Phoenix is definitely one of the more powerful weapons we have in our Imperial armory rather. That was probably what allowed you to, that was definitely one of the bigger things that allowed you to dominate the game. Being able to have, as I was saying, between takes, an unparalleled ability to focus your fire on different flanks at will, really. You were saying you never really knew where the game was going until the end.
Early on, I had no idea where the game was going. No matter how good a turn was for me, I didn't feel like it was all that good because a few bad things would happen to me during my turn, and the same thing happened to you, really.
Yeah.
So, that really kept me feeling unsure and like I was constantly climbing uphill. It wasn't until really turn 4 where I became pretty certain things were going to go the way they were. At that point, I just whittled down your Wraithguard squad so much that I felt like it was going to be real tough for you to challenge me.
Well, I knew by turn 2 that that the game was fairly settled. Mainly when you wiped out both my Dire Avenger squads for the most part.
Yeah.
Was it turn 1 or 2 that you put down the templates that crippled Asherman's Dire Avenger squad?
That was turn 1.
Okay, turn 1 that happened. Turn 2 you got out of your transport, your Falcon, and you wiped out the other Dire Avenger squad with heavy flamer templates.
Yeah.
All that left was my Wraithguard and my Rangers to hold. And my Wraithguard were busy with 3 different threats, basically, shooting at. They couldn't multitask enough. My Wraithlords did absolutely nothing with this game. I killed a few of the Warlocks, which was nice, but 4 of your Rangers took out one of my Wraithlords from pristine health.
Yeah.
You took out your Farseer took out my other Wraithlord when I charged it.
In one-on-one combat.
Yeah, I failed my saves. You made your wounds.
Yep.
Basically, the story was that, and it's difficult for an opponent to notice, but I wasn't doing any damage. In the end, I think I killed out 2 or 3 units. I mean, you were crushed by the Avatar getting wiped out in when it was charging the full squad of red
I really was. That was a morale killer for me.
I knew that wasn't important at all. The only thing I was focusing on in that was the Seer Council. And I knew they were going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And they did. They made it through 2 units, almost got through a third. I think in combat my gun platforms would have taken out the Warlock if you remembered to charge. But either way, you would have done damage, and that would have been crippling. I failed those 2 charges.
Yeah.
Um,
That was the game changer for me. Because had you made those 2 charges, you probably would have wiped out the Guardian squad that I had defending my objective, and you would have wiped out, more than likely, I think my Autarch would have been beaten to death by Asserman.
Probably. You could have made your saves, and the power axe would have really put the hurt on Asserman.
That was one thing I did. I would have had the option of that, and he already had a wound on him. But the fact that you failed to save meant I had a real chance, as long as I just fired everything right at the center of the table, which is exactly what I did. And I was trying so hard to get rid of just one Wraith Guard, because at that point the Wraith Guard squad would have been effectively toughness 3.
Yeah.
And I could have gotten so many more wounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Comparatively, and it was real tough with that 2.5 cover save. That is amazing on the Wraith Guard track.
Well, I mean, honestly, it didn't change the game. And that turn that I failed it, that really allowed you to take out a lot of them. But nonetheless, I still failed a great number of 2-ups, and you didn't really shoot at them.
And the luckiest thing that happened to me was I rolled a 1 on my first reserves roll for the Warp Spider squad, and then the turn that you failed,
Yeah,
that's when they came in.
Yeah.
And I was able to pop in right behind them and just add that extra bit of firepower. And that turn, with everything shooting, I think I just, by virtue of making you roll a 3-up or a 5-up, got you down to just below half.
Well,
that squad.
I looked at it this way. Even if I made those charges that turn where you thought the game really changed when I failed the charges,
Yeah.
I was looking at the game was already over because I only had 7 bodies left there.
Yeah.
You had a lot of units left. The Wraith Wall is a very tough list in terms of morale. It's disheartening to look at and watch it march across the field, but it's all about sticking to your guns.
Yeah.
On both sides, I've seen a lot of unsuccessful Wraith lists because they're afraid to commit. And you see a lot of the grunt work being done by disposable fire dragons, that sort of shenanigans. But if you have 2 full squads of them, you need to throw them at the enemy. And if there's a turn where you're not pushing forward ahead more, you're going to lose out.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the defender needs to stick to his guns too, because you can whittle them down. They don't end up doing a lot of damage.
Yeah.
They've got 12-inch guns.
Yeah.
They've got 1 shot each. And in combat, they've got 1 attack. You can either tar pit them, or like what you did, whittle them down with a lot of fire. Like I said, even if I made those charges that turn,
Yeah.
I would have, at best, I would have killed the Guardian squad, and then you would have had, you would have had 2 flyers, and you would have 2 squads firing shuriken cannon at it, or a shuriken fire at it, and you would have wiped it out either way. So that was pretty much assured. In 6th edition especially, it's all about setting up the attack and going in from all sides. But it's about setting up a crucial turn.
Yeah. And that's part of the vector dancer thing, because it allows you to set up from the beginning of your movement with a flyer. It allows you to set up
Just about any.
a target your opponent may not expect.
Yeah.
Because when you just have the 190-degree turn, your opponent knows you have 180 possible degrees, and then there are some units he can move into places where you just can't do anything about it. If he moves in close to the flyer, you're out of luck. Now with this, you can do the 90 and do another 90, and
It's tough to anticipate what's going to be out of line sight. I mean, it should be easier, but But sometimes you just can't tell, and you can only move so far with ground units.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and there were, I mean, it was almost like the two flyers were just circling the center of the board, killing at will.
They were, really.
Yeah, and that mainly comes down to that 93 turn, and I didn't go off the table once with either of them, which was, that keeps them on the table firing, and, I'm not giving up a turn of shooting.
Yep.
And they're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Unit of the match?
My unit of the match, it's tough to say because everything sucked at one point or another. I would have to probably say the Shadow Weavers.
Really? Okay, well, they did a lot of damage.
They took damage in the end, not that it really mattered, but they did do damage. They took out the Warlock, the last marauding Warlock. They did damage to your jet bike squad. They forced them to, they actually forced them to break. If you broke again, I would have actually, I thought I had a chance not to win the game, but at least to deny you more points.
Yeah.
If my Wraith Guard survived in that last turn.
If I had to choose a unit of the match, it would probably be the Phoenix. The two flyers were awesome, but I think that one, just with the AP3 option, it just felt a little bit beefier.
I think that's going to be a common theme. It's going to become a trend with the Phoenix. That Phoenix is so good. I'm afraid of it. I need to devise ways of killing it. I haven't come up with anything yet, but I'm sure it will come in time.
He's going to get a firestorm, I know.
It will come in about 2 to 4 weeks. Last game I was saying, I don't think, you'll ever fail a charge that you felt you should make it. I failed 2 crucial charges. 3 actually.
One with fleet.
Yeah, one with fleet as well. And the Night Spinner had a lot to do with that, though.
Yeah.
Your Night Spinner was very important. That secured that flank over
It
there.
didn't kill stuff, but it kept slowing him down, and that's all I really wanted out of it.
Yeah.
It really only had a handful of casualties, but slowing things down was well worth it.
Yeah, but anyways, as I was saying about failing easy charges, well, they're still 7-inch charges, so I wouldn't have made it otherwise.
Yeah.
Being in combat, the funny thing was everyone's very excited about power axes right now, and how you shouldn't take power swords anymore. Everyone should load up on power axes. You had a power axe on your Autarch, and you probably would have, it hindered you. It didn't help you.
Yeah, the initiative 1 was a big deal, especially when, it has a lot to do with how I feel going up against the Phoenix Lords or other things. I mean, that initiative 1, it's tough. It helps balance it down against a power sword.
Yeah.
That being said, I do like the feel of it being unique in my army. No one else has one.
Definitely.
No one else really has the option of one.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe the Dire Avenger.
Or you can break out your 2nd edition Banshees.
Yeah. Well, that's where that X came from.
I know. Yeah. That's what I saw. I'm like, I'm glad you still had some of those axes laying around.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I was actually, I was happy with Assault. It didn't feel like we needed to challenge each other every fight.
Yeah.
Though it is a nice tool to have.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it was pretty much business as usual.
Yeah. Mm.
Night fight. Perhaps at the start of every game. If we had 2 turns of night fight, that would have been a radically different game, and we would have seen far more assaults. At least I would have assaulted you far more because I was making a beeline for your edge of the table. The night fight's gonna be that's gonna be for assault heavy armies. That's gonna be a real godsend if you get it for more than 1 turn, and that's what you should be hoping for.
And if everyone's wondering, the Tempest launcher from the Dark Reaper Exarch was so devastating.
Oh my god!
Because I gave it crack shots, so it ignored cover. And with the early game in Night Fight, I was really worried that I didn't take the Nightfire missiles for the Phoenix, which can also ignore cover. But in the end, Night Fight dissipated, and it dissipated before my flyers got here, so that helped me to some degree.
Either way, regardless of what missiles you took with the Phoenix, they would have done well. If you used the other ones, you would have shattered whatever else that wasn't a Wraith Guard. In any event, we're probably running along again as we usually do. So I think now is a good time to close it out
Yep.
with another good game. And we'll see you next time.